Welcome again in Unit 3 with Theories of Social Psychology. First of all, we're going to start with the definition and origin. So here we are. Other names: observational learning theory, learning by modeling theory. Consider the link between cognitive and behavioral theories. Main hypothesis: individuals acquire social behavior by watching, observing, and imitating the behaviors and action of others. Focus centers on the influence of the surrounding environment on the individual's learning pattern through observation. Founder: American psychologist Albert Bandura of Canadian origin. Key experiment: the Bubble Doll experiment in 1961 and 1963, conducted to discover if observing violence affects children's behavior. Evolution: the theory was formulated in 1967 and evolved into the social cognitive theory in 1986, which emphasized the mutual interaction between the individual behavior and environment. And now we're going to talk about the second point: assumptions and basic principles. We start with the key assumption. We have social creators. Humans are social creators who interact within groups, observing and imitating the behaviors of others who are seen as models. Mediating cognitive process. Specific cognitive process mediate between the observation of a behavioral pattern and its execution. Latent learning. Observed patterns may be established in the cognitive structure and executed at an appropriate time. Latent learning. Selectivity. Observational learning is selective. Imitation is closely linked to the level of motivation and cognitive process of the observer. By the basic principles, we have reciprocal determinism, interaction between the three components: person, behavior, and environment. Cognitive process play a role in collecting this interaction. Vicarious process. Behavior is acquired vicariously by observing models without the need for direct experience of reward or punishment. Cognitive process. Learning is selective and influenced by internal processes like inference, expectation, and perception. Self-regulation process. Individuals regulate their behavior based on the expected results, which determines the possibility of learning and participating or practicing the behavior. Here we are in the four stages of social learning. We start with attention. The person must pay full attention to a specific distinguishable model to be able to imitate it. Retention. The learner must record and store the observed behavior in memory to be recalled and repeated later. Reproduction. The observer must have the ability to reproduce the action and put it into execution in reality. This stage completes the social learning process. Motivation. And the last one, an incentive or drive is required to push the observer to imitate what they learned. Motivation is affected by reward and punishment. Criticism directed at the theory doesn't provide a clear idea of how behaviors are transformed, largely ignore the differences between the individuals, interpreted human behavior as being completely dependent on environmental circumstances, overlook the importance of intelligence, abilities, motives, and cognitive structure in receiving observed forms of behavior, fail to specify the factors behind the choice of the observed behavior, focused on other behaviors despite Bandura's acknowledgement of internal factors. Social cognitive theory. Here we are in the first one: social cognitive theory. We start with the definition, which said that the theory focusing on human performance and the role of the social environment in motivation, learning, and self-regulation. An extension of Albert Bandura's social learning theory. An important part of knowledge acquisition is fundamentally linked to observing the behavior of others within the social context. Basic premise. An individual observes a model whose behavior yields results. The observers store this information to give their subsequent behavior. Reinforcement or punishment. If the model is punished, the observer avoids the behavior. If the model is reinforced, it becomes a motive to perform the behavior. The theory involved to include the ability to predict outcomes and construct and regulate appropriate behavior without a superior model. Historical overview and importance of social cognitive theory. We have historical overview which starts to 1931, roots in Edwin Holt and Harold Chapman's work on imitation. To 1986, with Bandura's named the theory to social cognitive theory to focus on the cognitive components and their interaction with behavior and the environment in shaping personality. Importance of social cognitive theory. Helps educators teach children the skill of understanding others' feelings and responding positively in social situations. Aids in developing preparation for first interviews, work, or dating. Increases parents' awareness of monitoring their behavior in front of children, as both positive and negative behaviors are learned through observation, example watching TV or smartphones, can be used to refine children's personalities and increase their involvement in society. Factors affecting social perception. We have the factor and their effects. We start with A, genetic factors. Early relationship with parents affect social interactions, trust, and the sense of social acceptance. B, social factors. The nature of the social sphere can direct behavior and sometimes weaken the individual's social perception ability. C. Cultural factors. Cultural background affects impressions of unfamiliar people and determines the subjective feeling towards other. Social influence theory. Concept, history, and patterns. We start with the concept, which said that addresses the study of how people influence each other and their environment. Fundamental assumption: humans are influenced by their surrounding individuals, events, circumstances, ideas, and actions of others. Definition: a behavioral change within social environments brought about by one person or a group of people. The history began to emerge in the 60s of the last century, originally formulated by Herbert Kalman in 1953. Three patterns of accepting social influence. We have compliance, superficial change to gain rewards or avoid punishment. Identification, change to secure membership in a group or relationship with the agent. Internalization, permanent change because the belief is integrated into the individual's value system. Basic concepts, sources, and effects. We start with the basic concepts which adapted toward a specific social category, race, religion, etc. Desire to influence, the desire to change others' behavior or opinion. Social independence, reliance on others' opinions in determining one's behavior. Social influence, the influence exerted by an individual on others, leading to a change in their behavior or opinion. Now we talk about sources of social influence. We start with individuals through dialogue, discussion, and social interactions. Media outlets through television, radio, programs, newspapers, and magazines. We have social institutions too, including schools, universities, social organizations, and religious institutions. And now we talk about effects of social influence. We have 2 points, negative and the positive one. We start with the negative effects. Can lead to social intolerance and discrimination. can lead to social pressure and affect freedom of decision making. But the positive effects see that it contributes to achieving social discipline, helps in achieving social adaptation and harmony. Theory Appendix. We have the element and the description and division. A. Cognitive processing level. Degree of awareness of being exposed to influence divided into conscious, deliberate, high awareness, high attention, and unconscious, automatic, outside awareness, instinctive response. B. Intentionality of influence, whether the influencing agent intends to exert power, intentional, deliberately exerted leads to obedience, non compliance, or intentional, manifest in imitation, no imitation. C. Social status. Relative difference between the individual and the agent, higher agent status, obedience or rebellion, lower agent status, power of the powerless, or counter power, peers equal status, conformity, non-conformity. D. Direction of change. Define all types of responses to social influence take the form of positive, negative, and irrelevant responses, acknowledging the possibility of counter effect. Criticism directed at the theory. 6. Criticism directed at social influence theory. Neglecting contextual factors. 5. To acknowledge temporal, spatial, and cultural differences that affect influence dynamics, leading to false generalizations. Ambiguity and intentionality of influence. The concept of intentionality was implicit, restricting the understanding of behavioral response associated with intentional influences. Ignoring power dynamics. Didn't pay adequate attention to power dynamics, alike Latin's social impact theory in 1981, which emphasizes the strength, immediacy, and number of the influencing group. It is a great explanation of cognitive process for persuasion, provided an insufficient explanation for cognitive process underlying persuasion. Thank you for listening and pay attention. See you later.